Pakistani symbols in the medal because these two countries have deep civilizational, cultural, and historic connects. In fact, one of the seven Chiranjeevis that we believe in is from present-day Sri Lanka, which is Vibhishana. So it is just that in between we forgot all of that. It is just that some people in between, for a few decades, messed up the whole thing. So what Prime Minister Modi is doing is to make people aware of how closely knit we are. And that's why, if anybody goes to Sri Lanka, he would know that it almost looks like India, maybe a little more cleaner. That's the only difference. And we need to learn a lot from the Colombo Municipal Corporation as to how to keep our cities clean. But at the same time, if you look at the food habits, the culture, the ethos, and the Sinhala language has so much of Sanskrit in it that if anybody understands Sinhala, it almost feels like you are actually listening to Sanskrit. So it is just that Prime Minister Modi is making it is like the Kiskinda Kand where Jambavan was making Hanuman aware of his own strength. So Prime Minister Modi is making these two countries understand that look, you are same, you're not different. It's just that geographically you are a little different. So let me tell you, that's the reason, the kind of respect that is being shown, and as a brother, definitely as part of neighborhood first policy, the kind of help that India gave to Sri Lanka as a brother during 2022 post-COVID situation, nobody else gave. Neither the Chinese nor the Western so-called big multilateral institutions. Nobody gave it, and India gave it at a time when India was itself struggling in the post-COVID situation, trying to manage its own challenges and economic issues, as well as the external interference being done by the Biden administration. Let me make it blunt. So that is something that the Sri Lankans have not forgotten. And yes, the kind of respect, the honor that Sri Lanka is giving today is also because Sri Lanka realizes that Sri Lanka remains a country with tremendous potential, which is yet to be unleashed. Their core two areas of revenue generation remains tea and tourism, but I think that is a country which has potential beyond that. When it comes to the startup ecosystem, India can help, support them a lot. When it comes to unleashing their energy potential in trade, in wind and solar, I think India can help them a lot. When it comes to digital public infrastructure or financial technologies, fintech for public services, I think India can actually do a lot because India has done. And last but not the least, when it comes to disaster management, in both the countries, both India and Sri Lanka, we are prone to different kinds of natural disasters. And so disaster management, disaster development of resilient infrastructure, India, with the kind of work NDRF does in terms of the kind of force it has created for disaster response, it's phenomenal. So there is a lot to learn from each other. And that's why I think, but at the same time, we must remember one thing, Uday. See, as a country, we do believe that we have stopped believing in binary. So we keep good relation both with Russia and United States, and we have a functional relationship with China as well. So let's not presume and expect that just because they are showing respect to India, let's not presume that tomorrow onwards they will shun China. It is not possible. The only thing which is sensible, and both the countries realize it, is this, that Sri Lanka must not allow the Chinese to use Sri Lankan territory against India. That's it. Doesn't mean that tomorrow the Chinese ships will not come. Doesn't mean tomorrow the Chinese will not have investment in Sri Lanka. I mean, the Chinese have investments in India. So on what basis will we say the Sri Lankans must not have Chinese investments? So let's understand the world is evolving. There is a lot of churning, like the manthan going on. And in that manthan, a lot of realizations coming through difficult times, that you can have good and bad relation with certain countries. But when it comes to a country like India, for Sri Lanka, the civilizational, historical connect is so profound that it is impossible to exist without each other. Our Ramayana is incomplete without Sri Lanka, and their history is incomplete without India or Buddhism. And that is where the role that Prime Minister Modi is playing as a catalyst to revive that whole thing. I think we must respect him for his tireless approach towards that. And we must also be grateful to Sri Lanka for the way they realize that, look, there has been challenges in the past which every country faced with each other. But now there is this understanding that, look, India is not your enemy. We can have differences, but we have much more in common than differences, and that's where I think the realization is coming. The medal itself is symbolic as to how closely knit we are with each other. So, in spite of differences, let's focus on areas of commonality, including the economic potential, which for Sri Lanka remains, under fulfilled. And I think India can play a great role in that. Security Pact, my last point, is more about potential in terms of allowing Indian companies working with Sri Lankan companies for manufacturing weapon systems in Sri Lanka. I remember when the civil war in Sri Lanka was going on, tragically both the Sri Lankan army and the LTT both were using Chinese Type 56 rifle. Look at the predicament. So there are opportunities which has to be explored, spiritual, economic, cultural, as well as country to country in terms of understanding each other's concerns. So the government is doing a good work, and we must also respect and be grateful to the Sri Lankan government for reciprocating. Back to you.
Okay, let me take that to Alok Mehta as well. Alok Mehta, it's not just Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka now is just the